This is how you look at success. It is only a narrative of people to people to people. Why else wouldn't you want to spend your time doing that more purposefully and intentionally and understand the strategy behind it is you get what you get and your life is richer, as opposed to sometimes you get it, but when you don't, your life seems smaller.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by purebookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer. In the finale of our two-part series with community building strategist and author David Homan, he gets even more practical as he shares how bookkeepers can turn everyday interests into real connections, move past the intimidation that holds them back, and build trust-based relationships that open the door to meaningful opportunities. To learn more, let's rejoin the conversation.
So this is half of it. The other half, which is diversity, which is if your passion is bowling or a book club and you love reading like really, really geeky sci-fi or really like deep-seated romance novels or whatever it is, how much does it really take to ask other people if they know anyone else who also likes geeky sci-fi or also likes to go bowling? Or if somebody, used to be a runner when they were a kid, and now that they have young kids and they're feeling, as you and I might have, like that dad bod is a real thing that you can't really escape because if you're at a sporting event, it doesn't mean you're doing sports. It just means you're sitting there eating and watching, then driving at bedtime. And
it doesn't go off, what's that, osmosis?
and then somehow you have to sprint for a ball or grab something and you go, this is not like what it used to be. But you want to get back into it. So how much does it really take to have the courage to say, do you know anyone that's doing like little amateur running, like 2 miles, maybe, jogging? And like the more you ask for this to share a passion, the more somebody goes, you know who I could help? I could help my friend Linda, who also wants to get back in running. Why don't the three of us get together and just do a super walk? Then somebody else goes, my friend Tim does this. And suddenly you have community, you have an action. And as you get to build a bond through any type of community building, and it literally could be bowling, which is technically an isolated sport, but if you go to a bowling hall in certain parts of this country, like it is a community and a network, and it is literally about perfection mentally to bowl a 300. That's what it takes. It's not the skill. It's perfection. I've never been able to bowl my weight since I got above 150 pounds, so I'm not one of those who strive for perfection. But if my world is about getting out of my comfort zone, and that's the intimidating part, what if you embrace your passions and where you are comfortable and simply asked if I or you know others who share that? If you can't take from the passions that help you connect with people and the relationships where people have already helped you, if you can't see that you already have this, you just need to turn it into more intentional with this type of networking. I'd be surprised. I haven't seen it in a decade of studying this, and not my world is connectors, but I meet people, normal people from all walks of life. And what they did was something that gave them grounding and built community. And then they suddenly have that story, which is, and here's how my business got funded. Here's how my nephew got that job. Here's from how the church I joined or the synagogue or the mosque that I joined, I met this person who then married my sister. All those things happen once we get slightly out of it with intention.
It's really great. And I love the story of the calling someone to thank them and then, making sure it's a no. It's like you're not calling them for anything. Just on the level of that. As you said, I don't get many calls, people thanking me. Very few. I get, I'm thinking one hand here.
Yeah. Which is just sad because you put yourself out there. You have this podcast. You have a whole business and community. And the number of people that you've helped, if they could simply at some point follow back up, And again, it has to be something substantial, right? Like we do this podcast, and I did one a couple months ago. And then from that, I got a keynote speaking gig at a big NFL players conference around relationship building and all the stuff we're talking about related to my book. And I called up the friend who did the podcast and I said, here's what happened from the podcast we did. Like, thank you. And they were a stranger before. And they pause and they go, I look at my readership, my viewership, my downloads. No one's told me an outcome before. This is a top 1% podcast, and no one had told them an outcome from putting somebody on their show.
Wow.
And I said, tell everyone they need to honor what happens from the exposure you're giving them and watch what changes. Because things happen, we just don't think that we should or need to honor it, even if we would want that ourselves.
Yeah. I think it's like I'm taking note for myself. And I would say there's a couple things that come up for me is I'll put I'll do it later. I don't have time. And those are like, I think recently I lost a cousin to cancer, and that kind of sparked that there might not be a later.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I've done some things recently where it's like, you know what, I'm not going to wait on this. Like, I can't do everything, but I can do anything. And it's like, what am I going to do with my time that's going to make a meaningful impact? And some of this is, changing the context of what networking really is. It's like, almost needs a new word, because it's building human connections and being the kind of person that I want to be, my son to be and my daughter to be, and have a life of people around them that do the same things. Like for me, that's there. And then the other thing that I would say is a barrier for me, and I've met lots of people over the years and made these great connections, and then I just let them rot. I don't nurture them, probably for the same reasons, and maybe a little bit of like intimidation, like I'm not as successful as them, or I would be a burden to them, or I don't know what I'm looking for there, trying to put words in my mouth, but it's
that imposter
self-limiting
syndrome
belief, I guess, maybe is what I let them, and I don't do anything with it, if that makes sense.
So the data science shows that about every 5 years we cycle through most people in our life. We keep a few, but in these 5-year cycles, it just seems that like there's people in our life and then they fade. It took me a while to not take that personally, for those that I wanted to nurture more, or for those that I did not, or didn't want to nurture it with me. But that is just, you can only hold so many relationships in your life. And like the relationships you have from sports now with your 11-year-old compared to when he was 5, and the difference of that of probably the parent friends you have with your daughter, and mine are the opposite. The older is the daughter, the younger is the son. Those change. They come and go. In some cases, you don't like the parents you meet in elementary school, and you're glad there's a change in middle school. And other times, like, you miss the parent even though the kid goes away.
Welcome to team sports. Thankfully, it's a season by season.
But if you took that step I advocated, that person who might intimidate you and you ask them for help, you know what most people who are intimidating never get asked? How they can be helped. I sat with an A-list celebrity at an event, and we were talking, introduced through a friend. I mean, I'm in these circles now, so this is not a normal circumstance, but it's my weird normal. And I looked at her and I was like, well, what do you need I can help with? And she was speechless. And I was like, well, these are the two things you do as a humanitarian. And like, I have great connections. Like, could I be helpful with them? And she literally was acting like I was trying to con her to start, because everyone wanted something from her. No one took the time to hear what she was doing or why. And I was like, isn't all your work around combating bullying and the way that you were treated this way when you were a girl? And she's like, it is. And I was like, well, here are two of my friends who were doing this. Like, one friend is a startup around belonging. And she goes, oh my God, like that's what it is. If we have a sense of belonging, then we don't ever feel isolated, mentally ill, suicidal, or violent. And she was suddenly enraptured because I have the audacity, and I'm no one in this world in terms of what I've done or earned or the rest, to say, can I help you? And then I hurt her. Once you realize everyone has a need, that intimidation is just the thing you've put in front of them as a barrier to treat them as a peer, as an equal. Some of them, especially the world of famous or the rest, will totally be the stereotype of like not wanting to connect with you further. But the ones that do, it doesn't matter the nature of the friendship. It doesn't matter the tier of it. Your son could be, be like best buds and play sports with this one dad, and that dad could be worth $300 million. And if your kids play sports and they like each other, it doesn't matter if you're here and they're here in wealth, because they're spending their time the same way you're spending your time. And so we build all these barriers around it as opposed to acting with generosity and then asking people to honor it. And once you start to shift your mentality of what you are worth versus somebody else, and you see that the relationships you built and have built or could build are worth way more than what somebody seems to have, all those people that you shed or I shed every 5 years, right? All the ones I've shed might be absolutely opportune for somebody listening in on this show right now. And the same that you used to have, or former podcast guests, then you might go, I actually interviewed this amazing investor venture capitalist, and David, like your startup that you had emailed me about, like I'm going to introduce him to you for that. And it could be somebody you haven't been in touch with for 4 years, but hypothetically 4 years ago, you asked them what they needed. And they said, I need a system to connect with trust, which is what my work is. And you remember it because you couldn't help them, but at least you asked.
It's beautiful. I love the context shift. It's, just instantly switches it from me to them. It's like,
which is what we all want when somebody meets us.
Yeah.
And we're tired of talking about ourselves and not getting a result. We're tired of like going home after a long day and wondering where our opportunities are. Even those who are in a prominent position are tired of feeling alone in what they do. And it's, this is why, like, when my friend called me courageous for sharing on LinkedIn that my father passed, I called him up and I was like, I'm sorry, but that's not courageous. This should be normal for us to talk about what it's like to have kids. And although I know you mentioned yours was 10 years ago, like, think about it right as a dad now, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't understand as a dad with an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old about to turn 12 and 9. I didn't understand that when my dad passed, how hard my kids would grieve. And you're living with the shadow of a father your kids, based on when he passed, didn't get to really know, which is what my younger brother is living with. And it just sucks. It just, like, there's nothing in between. It's hard to sit in those feelings. And yet, if you sit in those feelings and you build something from it, what else is there? Opportunity can come, but when trust is built without an agenda, then it lasts so much longer. When you add an action on top of it to help somebody else and they honor it, you filter out this weird world where you seemingly feel like you're not understood, to having circle to circle to circle that are always strengthening you. And that's what this intentional network is. It's not opportunistic. It's not parent related. It's not who's on your podcast or in my business or in my community. It's who showed up when you needed them to show up. And who did you not have to ask for? And who, especially in this world of people listening to this wanting to get business from it, who said, you know what? You should really hire Michael. Here's what he does. I trust him. Better than every advertisement, every cold call, every even booth at a conference. Because if somebody says, I trust this guy, I trust this woman, it's 100% likely that person trusts will at least take a meeting and get you that lead generation.
It's amazing. It's powerful stuff. I mean, I'm at multiple levels here, but it's one of those things that, like I said, is a context shift, I think, on multiple levels. But when it shifts this way, it's like you're building so much more meaningful connections that lead to not just doing business, but living a better life, really. More fulfillment and and less stressful. I'm like my body is like relaxing just thinking about the gratitude I have for some of the people that I've met, and just even thinking about calling them to thank them is giving me peace.
I'll say this with everyone who knows me well, knowing my vice, it's actually better than eating dark chocolate.
I think you're right.
It just something changes when you literally see somebody light up and understand that they had an impact and a meaning in your life. And this is why, like, there's no such thing as a networking event, a business community, a parent network, a sports community. It's a world of endless possible connection. And it's not that we were doing it wrong before. It's just we didn't understand what we thought we needed because we used to have smaller communities that were tight. We used to have a world where kids just played in the suburbs and down the street. We used to have a world where somebody called up their friend and you got a job. And now we have a world where everything is a barrier. Everything seems inaccessible. Everyone is taking more, and it's because it is more visible. It doesn't make it less real or tangible.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone's wanting more, that means everyone's trying to take. And when you shift it to that real giver mindset and you create boundaries around your principles of who you want to engage with and what you expect, and you learn how to talk about yourself more purposefully and passionately, it does shift. I'm living proof of this, which is why I'm working to be a thought leader and do podcasts and the book and a startup and a global network and a big advisory firm, and everything in it is the same exact thing. I have one value in this world, which is I hear people and I help them reframe what they're doing and I introduce them to a friend. And that's my entire life. It's just going, you know who you should meet? You should meet this person.
Mhm.
And that's what a connector is, which does not have value, but my kids see it as value, which I'm proud of. They see it as a job because at least it does pay the bills to some degree, but it's not valued. And I tell everyone listening, right? You think about all these people, you want to express the value they've given. They're much stronger in who your community could be than the ones you mentioned before that came and went. Probably some of those people that came and went, you can get back in a heartbeat by texting them saying, I want to tell you something. Can you take 5 minutes? Then just expressing gratitude. It's sitting there. We just have to grasp it back and let technology augment that, knowing technology will never replace human connection and trust.
Yeah, it's a real opportunity there, and it is super interesting. It's an investment of, like, I think of, and I'll speak for myself here, we're doing all these things, doing, like, what's important, what's, time, there's time, right? You only have so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, it's like, do I have the time? It's like the investment of these human relationships will take time. And it's like, if you're going to invest somewhere, this is probably no better time than right now. As you said, it's not AI, and technology isn't going to replace human connection and trust. And so that's a massive message for everyone, and really taking it's reframing. That's what it was. It was a bit. I had a lot of thoughts. This is
I threw a lot out at you. So everyone listening is waiting with bated breath to go, well, what was his question? Is he going to get to it? Why is David interrupting him? So now make it. So we make sure we close with that. Yeah.
Yes, which is, I've had one of the gurus of networking, which is Ivan Misner, the business professional. We've talked a lot about the purposeful community, but I've talked with Ivan Misner, and he often will say people got it all wrong, right? It's, you're not going there. He say, and I loved his quote or a story of where he had gone to an event, networking event. There were 900 people, and he said, who here came to network with other people? And, 900 people put their hand up. And he said, well, who came here looking for something? To someone to actually be connected with, that they had a problem to solve. And I'm not doing it very good justice here in how he said it. But the point was, nobody put up their hand because everybody went there to just go and get, instead of going there and to give, and thinking of, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a really interesting context. And this is really, I think, another layer for me is, we often think of like more, whereas really just one solid human connection is worth, like you said, the 10,000 likes or the 100,000 likes or a million likes. If they're just meaningless, where's the value?
We don't see, and I really appreciate what you said, we don't have the ability to see what will happen several years in the future from those chain of relationships. Yet when we look back at every substantial thing in our life, there is an actual chain of people, of time, of what it takes to build that trust. And my world is to try to get people to understand that can be orchestrated. As a classical composer in my other life, like, what it means is you're the melody, you have some harmony, some people around you, and where you put all those people and where you hear that melody, where it's heard by others, eventually it's a symphony. But to get to that point, from the point prior, you can't hear it until it's already all there, which means you can't see it either. So when people start to understand that this practice, when we look at the nature of story, this is how everyone's stories goes once something has happened for them. My friend invited me out bowling. The guy across the way and I kept taking each other's ball. He turned out to be a CEO at my friend's country club. I asked if he knew Mike. He knew Mike. I came over and my wife met his, wife, and we had a dinner. He invited me to this conference. I walk into a room and he goes, no, come into the room with me. And standing there is this investor. And the investor asked what I was doing, and I told them, and they convinced me to start a startup that I've been wanting to start for 5 years. And it happened from bowling to a country club to a dinner to an investment. This is how you look at success. It is only a narrative of people to people to people. Why else wouldn't you want to spend your time doing that more purposefully and intentionally, and understand the strategy behind it is you get what you get and your life is richer, as opposed to sometimes you get it, but when you don't, your life seems smaller.
So powerful. And it's, I think, a complete reframe for everyone listening, and a very exciting reframe at that, is to take this new frame and go out and number one, buy this book, which I will be doing. I hope it's on Audible. If
not yet. We had plans actually to ask a very known celebrity for it, but those got waylaid by actually my father passing. Okay. So my co-author and I are going to record the audiobook this summer. Nice. As soon as we can both get to it. But it is available, Orchestrating Connection, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and anywhere else now, including people who read it and put it in the used bookstores.
Beautiful. Well, I will be getting a copy of that, and I'll look forward to the Audible one as well. And the thought that was there were a whole bunch, there were a whole bunch of like questions, thoughts, observations that came up in my brain, and I was having tough getting them all out. But this last one was really interesting when you were speaking about the, calling people or giving gratitude or making a difference for people. I had this experience recently where we had this online summit we do every year. And there were a whole bunch of people that were interacting and chatting, and I had gone in and in the platform just thanked them directly in a private message. Thank you for doing this, and I saw you said that, and it really makes a difference for people. Thank you. Just acknowledging them via this message, and I was like, I think maybe one. I did like a lot of them. And I got a very small percentage of responses. Now, some people may not have read them or whatever, and I don't know. But those people were on a meeting with one of our other team members, and they were like, oh my goodness, Michael, he is like, thanked me, and what a great guy. And oh my God. And all these people were, yeah, he thanked me too. And I was like, that made such a difference for me. And she told me this, and I'm like, well, that's really interesting, because I thought it was a waste of time, because there was very little feedback. And so that's another piece that you've really highlighted. Not only we just don't know the difference that we're making out there, because often people won't give that thanks back. Just like we said, like how many people
Correct.
have called me up and thanked me, but all these little things that we're doing make a difference when we're doing it from, I think, the right place, if you will.
100%. And the people who thank you back or respond are the ones worth keeping. The ones who feel really good they did something and think they deserve it aren't ready to be in your orbit or your world. It's a self-filtering prophecy every single time.
Yes. And that's an interesting piece there, is like that reciprocation is just knowing like, hey, we're dancing now in the music, we're jamming. When they get back and now we're jamming and we know each other and we have a different connection. So yeah, it's not to be negative, and I'm fine with, anybody that didn't reach out. For me, what I'm taking away is just keep doing great things for people, thanking people, being generous and being gracious with people, because it really, the people that did that, they didn't need to do it and they did it, and I was really grateful for it. So, and I really wasn't looking for anything back either. But I thought, wow, that made a bigger difference than I thought it did. And so I think that's the other piece, is we just don't know, unfortunately, how big a difference we make. And so just keep on giving is the message, I guess, for everyone, including myself.
I hear it too. And thank you for reiterating that back to me.
David, this has been an amazing conversation. Was not expecting it. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on and for everyone staying and listening through.
Yes, and please, everyone, go get this book. I think it's a transformation opportunity for all of you. And again, it's one of those perfect books. Don't just buy it for yourself. Buy it and gift it to your clients, and spread that message. They will, talking about gratitude. This is one of those perfect things to say, hey, I heard you, I help you, this might help you, here's a great book, I loved it, you might too. And it's such a simple thing to do for people and can make a massive difference. And it's also gratitude back to these wonderful guests like you, David, coming on and sharing what you know and making an impact for our listener.
It's my pleasure.
What a great discussion with David. Across this two-part series, two things are clear. Real opportunity doesn't come from more contacts. It comes from deeper connections. And the relationships you're looking for and the opportunities that come with them are already closer than you think. You just have to be intentional about building them. Thanks again, David, for the insight. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. For resources and links, visit thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.